Shrimad Purjitam eva va tat tad eva va gachatva mama tejo amsha sambhavam. For word-to-word synonyms, translation, and unpurport, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ji ki jai. Yat yat, whatever, vibhuti, opulences, mat, having, tattvam, existence, Shrimat, beautiful, Purjitam, glorious, eva, certainly, va, or tat tat, all those, eva, certainly, avagacha, must know, tvam, you, mama, my, tejaha, of the splendor, amsha, a part, sambhavam, born of. So, whatever opulences having existence, beautiful, glorious, certainly or although certainly, must know, you, my, of the splendor, a part, born of. Translation. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. Know that all opulent, beautiful, glorious creation spring from but a spark of my splendor. Purport. Any glorious or beautiful existence should be understood to be but a fragmental manifestation of Krishna's opulence, whether it be in a spiritual or material world. Anything extraordinarily opulent should be considered to represent Krishna's opulence. So, it's a very small purport. So, as we are actually studying, the Krishna's opulences in this chapter 10, and we also touch on this point in previous chapters as well. So Krishna is saying here that anything that is opulent, beautiful, or anything glorious, is everything. It's just a spark of his own splendor. So in previous verse, he said that is the splendor of the splendid. Also, he says that he's the ability in man, or the power of a powerful. So Krishna has actually claimed all these things to be his opulences, and he made it clear at the beginning of this chapter that he's only revealing only key opulences, that he wanted to actually present that to Arjuna. And here, actually meditating on this point, that first, as we all know, that everything is actually manifesting from Krishna, is the source of all material and spiritual world, as it says in 10.8. And here, as we understand that any opulence that we see in this world, anything that is extraordinary, marvelous that we see around, is nothing but the actually manifestation of Krishna's opulence. So that way, I think we can see, even in this material world, even it's a temporary, we see many marvelous things, even just very nature, Prakriti, in itself is marvelous, because no matter actually, as we say in today's world, human has made a lot of advancement in the science, but they cannot conquer the nature, even it's a temporary manifestation, it's a inferior energy of Krishna, to what to speak of the actually spiritual energy. Even actually means actually what I should understood means I was actually meditating on this point from this verse. What is actually takeaway point is that actually Srila Prabhupada always says that you can actually experience Krishna anywhere you go, so anywhere, even in the nature, you can see things, around you, the beautiful nature, the sunshine, the sea, the sky. So everything reminds us of the Krishna, it's Krishna's remembrance. So by understanding Krishna's opulence, we can actually improve or actually enhance our remembrance of Krishna in one way. And also, when we see actually any ability, this point is previously discussed, any actually good qualities in other actually person, any um, extraordinary ability in some, living entities. So that is also the actually manifestation of Krishna. It is his opulence. So normally we have tendency to get jealous, when we see these things, even within the actually devotional community or circle as well, people get actually jealous of other devotees who are actually performing, better devotional service, or they are better in some way, people get jealous, or they actually do things to hamper their progress. So that is not right, actually. So actually came across Srila Prabhupada's actually some instructions in relation to this verse, and that is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, where it is clearly mentioned, is 7.1.9, that I will just read the translation. What is relevant here is that the all-pervading personality of Godhead exists within the heart of every living being, and an expert thinker can perceive how he is present there to a large or small extent. Just as one can understand the supply of fire and wood, the water in a waterfall, the sky within a pot, one can understand whether a living entity is a demon or a demigod by understanding that living entity's devotional performance. A thoughtful man can understand how much a person is favored by Supreme Lord by seeing his actions. So I think that actually last sentence, or actually, a thoughtful man can understand how much a person is favored by Supreme Lord's by the Supreme Lord by seeing his actions. So Srila Prabhupada actually give a very detailed purport, and it's quite powerful. But actually, the key point, a key takeaway from there is actually, Srila Prabhupada says that actually that we should not be actually jealous, that we should not try to minimize advanced devotees' activities, that is not Vaishnavism. Vaishnava should not should appreciate the service rendered to the Lord by other Vaishnava. Therefore, Vaishnava is described in Srimad Bhagavatam as nirmatsa. Vaishnavas are never envious of other Vaishnava or of anyone else. Therefore, they are called nirmastaram satam. Nirmatsaranam shatam. So I was actually just meditating on this point, that actually means, I think this was also discussed in chapter 9 as well, the pure devotional service. And that actually anyone who has actually become envious of Krishna or envious of Krishna's opulences or his pure devotees, for him, it's very hard to progress in this path of Bhakti Yoga. So as Srila Prabhupada say that Vaishnava, if you want to become a devotee, then we should give up this quality, we should try, we should learn to appreciate good qualities of other Vaishnavas. So this is actually a very important point, that is also the representation, inequality, where Srila Prabhupada also made a reference to the actually one of the seed verse, Tesham satatu yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadhami buddhi yogantam yena mam upiyantit. So Krishna actually gives, one who is actually constantly engaged in serving him with love, he gives the actually knowledge, understanding within his heart as Paramatma. So as Srila Prabhupada very clearly mentions that Krishna is actually equal to everyone, he's not partial. He's equally disposed to all the living entities. He's giving instruction as per how much they are actually surrendered. So he's available to everyone. Everyone can take advantage. However, one person might actually take up, this instruction of Bhagavad Gita seriously, and he can progress fast. So Krishna actually reveal accordingly. But same subject matter might be explained to another person who may not very favorable or may not willing to actually accept those instruction to that degree. So he may not progress that fast, So Srila Prabhupada says that it's up to the attitude of that person, how they actually want to actually progress or how seriously they want to take these things. But Krishna will definitely favor, the devotees who are more surrendered to him. But that is not partiality. He's giving opportunity to everyone, but we should take that, and we should make a progress. So, so we should learn from the advanced Vaishnavas, the people better than us, who if they are progressing, and we should learn and improve ourselves rather than becoming jealous. So that is all. Any good quality in anyone is a Krishna's actually representation, is a opulence. So we try to understand by being jealous, we are actually becoming jealous with Krishna, and that is not going to be good for our devotional service. So that is actually, I think, I thought is a takeaway point for me from this verse. Thank you. Hare Krishna, devotee.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you, Sheetal Prabhuji, for very nice realizations. And thank you, Amrish Prabhuji, from Pragya Mataji and Krishna Samarpan Krishna Prabhuji for giving us this platform to share our realizations. So today's verse is Yadyat vibhuti mat sattvam Shrimad urjitam eva tat evavagachatvam mam tejo ansha sambhavam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Know that all beautiful, glorious and mighty creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. So as Krishna has mentioned few of his opulences in this chapter, and we have been reading them, and although they are his opulences are innumerable, still we think that we know all of them, but it's not like that. He is the best in all the categories of opulences, be it of beauty, knowledge, strength, fame, renunciation, and richness, anything. So whatever is manifested around us, be it power of a man, or be it a beauty of any person, or beauty of nature, power like powerful sun, power, moon, anything, everything is coming from Krishna, and it's just his, just an ansh of it, just a little bit of spark of his power, and we get so much. When we think about it, it feels so much opulent to us. So when we see these opulences in anyone, we become very impressed. But we have to be always mindful that these opulences are coming from Krishna. He is the source of all spiritual and material worlds. If a small human being's opulence attracts us so much, we can imagine how much attractive the reservoir Krishna must be. And when Krishna already tells about his everything that is coming from him in the seed verses, and still then Arjuna asks him in verse number 17, and then he asks him that how should I meditate on you? In what various forms are you to be contemplated, O blessed Lord? And then again in 18th, tell me again in detail, O Janardhan, Krishna, of your mighty potencies and glories, for I never tire of hearing your ambrosial words. So we have the devotees actually don't, they are never tired of hearing Krishna's beautiful pastimes or his glories or his splendorous opulences. So, but do we know everything about Krishna? So no, we can't. We can't, because we are very limited. And our limited mind and our limited capacity cannot fathom at all Krishna's various and manifold opulences. So little bit of revealed when Krishna wants to reveal it to us, and that relevance comes when we surrender to the devotees, when we surrender to our Guru Maharaj, and then we start getting little bit of knowledge, and it comes to our heart, and then we realize, oh, this is, then we try to see Krishna's opulences everywhere. It's never that we can understand Krishna's opulences by our own endeavor. It's not possible. Whatever we think we can understand is just our maybe ego. As we see that man is very much proud of his achievements in this world, and then he thinks, oh, I'm the creator, I'm doing this, I'm making robots, I can do this, I can do that. So much proud everywhere, so much arrogance everywhere. But it's whatever we make, it's just full of flaws. But whatever Krishna has made, whatever Krishna has given us is just flawless. There is no flaw in it. Everything is complete, everything is pure. But whatever we create, it's always, there is flaw. That's why, again, as in the advertisements we see, new this, new that, new. So just because we are not perfect, but Krishna is perfect. Why devotees don't get tired of hearing Krishna's opulences? So there is a very nice verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, which I would like to just mention here. So this is Vayam tu na vitripyama uttam shloka vikrame yachinvatam rasa jnanam swadu swadu pade pade. We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with him relish hearing of his pastimes at every moment. So we understand that, we realize that once we have a relationship with Krishna, all material things, they feel so empty, so like useless. And well, we do our activities, um, we do sometimes are caught in those things, but as soon as Guru Maharaj says that we have to retire every day. So as soon as we just finish our material things, and then we come to our spiritual activities, and we feel very blissful, very peaceful. So whatever we see here in this world, if why Krishna is actually again and again telling us that all these glorious, beautiful, mighty creations are his spark of his splendor, because those people who don't understand that Krishna is all in all, so by any means Krishna wants them to come to him. And devotees have no problem at all, but yeah, of course, people, they don't understand that this is the position of Krishna, that he is the supreme, and we are just part and parcels of him. So what I get from this verse is that, as Krishna says, on in most of the chapters, he has somewhere or other quoted that you just come to me, surrender to me, whatever you do for me, whatever you eat, whatever you do, pranam to me. So everything, Krishna is trying to actually say that we have to surrender to him. We have to learn that he is the supreme, he is all in all. And once we understand, then it will be the most fortunate thing which we can understand in this human body. And we should never miss that chance, um, that we have got this material body, but if we can understand the opulences of Krishna and we surrender to him, we love him, we serve him, that is the perfection of our life. So that is what I understand from this verse. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, looks like nobody else is giving the realization today now. So this too. So thank you very much, Sita Prabhu and Saraswati Mataji, for your nice realizations. They're very nice and thought-provoking realization. And thank you, Sanjeev Prabhu, for giving us the weekly reminders on this, although we should know and remember, but you know, thank you very much for your service there. Yad yad vibhuti mat tattvam Srimad Urjitam eva va tattad evavagachatvam mama tejo amsa sambhavam. So in this verse, Krishna is talking about that know that all beautiful, glorious, and mighty creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. And Prabhupada, in the very small purport, writes this that any glorious or beautiful existence should be understood to be but a fragmental manifestation of Krishna's opulence, whether it be in the spiritual or material world. Anything extraordinarily opulent should be considered to represent Krishna's opulence. So immediately when we think about material opulences of people, we may think about spiritual opulences also, as been pointed out, and it is natural for people to compare. Comparison we cannot stop. We all are born to compare. But thing is this: the biggest thing we must do is somehow or other force our mind through the process of chanting and gaining knowledge. By these two processes, we must somehow or other try to compare our own self with our own self, rather than comparing us with others. Bhagavad Gita is a self-realization process. It's a journey which anybody takes from zero level upwards. That's why Krishna says in the third chapter that those who are not following the process properly, they should not be disturbed. Let them be encouraged, and slowly they will change. But devotees are very eager, out of their compassion, to say that yes, Krishna has said that we must change them, allow them to be where they are, and they may change in this life or next life or the year, life after. But a devotee is just like a very merciful friend who accepts the fact that, believes in this, that knowledge that he receives will increase by spreading the knowledge. They say, that if knowledge is increased when you spread. If you keep it to yourself, knowledge it will not give you that potency. That is the reason why we are preaching, There are many hidden meanings behind why we insist on our Hare Krishna weekend to be a preaching institution, where everybody preaches according to their capacity. Because by preaching, sharing knowledge, we increase our knowledge. And when we share the knowledge with others, then we have to behave properly. Because people will check us. They see, what is he talking? Is he a hypocrite? Where he's saying that we must do this, but he's not doing it himself. So that is the reason why we have to check our own behavior. You see? And but this mercy, with this behavior of a devotee, the devotee wants to speed up the process of a non-devotee to become a devotee. At the same time, this process helps the devotee to speed up his own self-realization process. Yes, there is a hidden meaning. And when a devotee sees that a person has got material opulence or spiritual opulence also, he understands that if this is coming from Krishna. When he accepts and understands that it is coming from Krishna, then the enviousness can be slightly managed, Just like in 1144 Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, Arjuna is saying, Tasmat paranya pranidhaya kayam prasadaye tvam ahamisha medium piteva putrasya sakheva sakyuhu priya priyayar hasti deva shodham. So Arjuna is saying that please tolerate me. So you are the Supreme Lord, to be worshipped by every living being. Thus I fall down to offer my respects and ask your mercy. Please tolerate the wrongs that I may have done to you, and bear with me as a father with his son, or a friend with his friend, or a lover with his beloved. You see, this is the way in which a devotee, when he sees that Krishna is in the heart of all living beings, and that the splendor which comes, which Krishna is talking about, that know that all beautiful, glorious, and mighty creations spring but a spark of my splendor. When you see that it is Krishna who's there, that person may, because of his karma or her karma, may be opulent. But ultimately it is Krishna, Krishna is saying. And if we are worshipping Krishna, the same Krishna, how can we be envious? So that's the reason why, to appreciate the quality in others, this is how a devotee should look at. And beg for forgiveness from Krishna for what the wrong things that person may have thought or done. You see? Then another verse which we have discussed many times in the past about one who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor, who is free from false ego and is equal both in happiness and distress, and who is always satisfied and engaged in devotional service with determination, and whose mind and intelligence are in agreement with me, is very dear to me. Again, again. See how beautiful Krishna is saying this. This is the point. Who are the persons who are very dear to him? He says, one who is not envious, but who is a kind friend of all living entities. Now, to the possible extent, we should be kind and friend to all living entities. See? Yes, we discriminate to safeguard our bhakti. That is correct. But we don't mean harm to anybody. This is our policy. You must understand this policy as tutors. We protect our bhakti. We don't mean harm to anybody. So with that point, we are not envious. See? So one who is not envious, but who is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor, who is free from false ego and equal both in happiness and distress, and who is always satisfied and engaged in devotional service with determination, and whose mind and intelligence are in agreement with me. This is very, very, very important. He is very dear to me. So what is happening is this, that intelligently we have to surrender to Krishna. This is the meaning behind it. The onus is upon us to understand what Krishna wants. And with it, whatever is disturbing us, we avoid it. Full stop. You have got the right to avoid the disturbance caused to you. So do so. But main thing is this, that avoidance of disturbance is not for our peace. Avoidance of disturbance is to make sure that we are in agreement with Krishna. Otherwise, we are not in agreement with Krishna if we are disturbed and making other people disturbed. There is a point to be understood. Intelligently, we have to discriminate so that we are in alignment with Krishna's will. Because ultimately, Krishna is the father of all living entities, not only us, not only mine, not only yours. And for him, all living entities are the same, equal. He's equal to everyone, as he says. But one who's a friend in me, to him I'm a friend who's very dear to me. You see? So we have to become his friend. And the best way to become his friend is to understand his heart. And with our mind and intelligence, we have to be in agreement with him. Not that we have our own will and we impose our will to him. Now, to understand this, it requires a bit of intelligence. And everybody has been given intelligence to some extent. How do we implement this in our life? That will also come. Now, we also discussed another verse on this, that what are the godly qualities in men? You know, the qualities which are considered godly in man. So Krishna is saying this in 3 verses, 16 chapter 1 to 3 verses. He says that the blessed Lord said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, and simplicity. Austerity and simplicity, non-violence. See, austerity simplicity is considered as one point, Very interesting. Because only if we are simple, we can be austere. We cannot be austere if we are complicated, if our needs are too many. It's very nice. The non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion, and freedom from covetousness. These two words also come together. Compassion and freedom from covetousness. You see, when you're compassionate, then you will be free from other people's from being conspiring from to other people. Then gentleness, modesty, and steady determination is very important. Steady determination. If a person is very steady in his determination, you understand this. He must be modest. These two words also together. He may be seen as a very flamboyant person, but from the heart he must be a very modest person. Then vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, freedom from envy, and passion for honor. These two words are also is one. Again, freedom from envy and the passion for honor. If you want honor, it's passionate. See? These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharat, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature. So these are the qualities which we have to strive for. So we have to compete with our own self to say whether have I got all these qualities or not. And we don't have to compete with anybody else. Let them have the qualities good for them. They are opulences of Krishna. Because of Krishna, they've got this. And that is Krishna in them. So we must search out this Krishna within us. Everybody has got these qualities in some form. They may be lying dormant, they may be suppressed by us, or they may be neglected by us. But if we have got these qualities in us already there, then we must spend time investigating this and removing the covering. Spending that time, investing that time for us will be great beneficial for us. Then we'll become godly. And I can tell you one thing, the biggest opulence in material world and spiritual world, not spiritual world, excuse me, the biggest material opulence and spiritual opulence are these godly qualities to be held, which a person has on his own within himself. Not his very rich person, he must be the king of the world, or he must be president of the world, big country. Those are not. Today is president, tomorrow is not. Today is king, he'll be dying. But a godly person, a person who has got these qualities, even one or two or three or four, will make sure that he'll become very prosperous. People will be appreciating about this. There's Krishna's mercy. These are godly qualities. You see? And similarly, in the next verses, they talk about non-godly qualities, which is not our interest here. What we're talking about is to compete within our own self. Now, why do we require these things? As I started the discussion by saying that ultimately Bhagavad Gita is talking about our self-change, not changing the world. We change our own self. That's how we change the world. We have not been given the theka, or the proprietorship to change the whole world. No, you change yourself. Finish. Now, for that, there is a very nicely mentioned in the second chapter. We discussed this in 66 verse. One who is not in transcendental consciousness can have neither a controlled mind nor steady intelligence. So if we don't have this intelligence, transcendental consciousness, if we are not in this consciousness, these are all transcendental qualities. Not the transcendental qualities when we are talking with Krishna and we are dancing like a gopis and all these things. No. We are mistaken by this completely. Those are not needed. This transcendental consciousness, meaning these qualities which we discussed, should be imbibed in us. So one who is not in this transcendental consciousness can neither have controlled mind nor steady intelligence. It's not possible. Without this mind and intelligence, we cannot be in agreement with Krishna's mind and intelligence. You see, we discussed that point. Okay. So if we are not in agreement with Krishna's intelligence and mind, Krishna's will, then what happens? Without which there is no possibility of peace. We'll be completely away from peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? So to become happy, we require to be peaceful. And to be peaceful, we require to be having this transcendental intelligence. And this transcendental intelligence is possible by having the same mind intelligence aligned to Krishna's will. You see? So it's our own change with seeing Krishna's opulences, you see? Then Krishna says further, in the same chapter, second 71st verse, a person who has given up all desire for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace to become happy. So here he gives the answer. If you really want to be peaceful, okay, then happiness will come. But to become peaceful, we require that our desires for sense gratification have to be given up. There is no chance. How can you give up? Well, just give up. People always ask this question all the time. The same questions are asked to different speakers. Same people ask the question, but how do we give up, Prabhuji? And they're listening to 50 classes a year, man, of speakers. But they're not spending a single moment their own controlling of their own senses. You see? So here Krishna is saying a person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires. His only desire is to make Krishna happy. That's it. Who has given up all sense of proprietorship. He uses everything as mercy of Krishna. Not that he gives up everything. He uses everything as mercy of Krishna. And is devoid of false ego. False ego meaning what? He is not interested in what others are doing. He is interested only in his business. He is competing with his own self. He alone can attain real peace. And to be happy, you require being peaceful. Krishna says further in the 4th chapter, 39th verse, he says that a faithful man who's absorbed in transcendental knowledge. See, the word used is absorbed. Okay, a faithful man who's absorbed in transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses quickly attains a supreme spiritual peace. You see? He's given us now all those different things, control the senses, control the false ego, etc. Giving up sense of proprietorship, everything. He's now giving more definition of this in small numbers. He's saying that a faithful man should be faithful to this knowledge of Krishna, who is absorbed in transcendental knowledge. So once we're thinking about this knowledge, it should not be Monday to Wednesday or Saturday to Saturday when we give class or Saturday to Sunday when we give class. It should be every day. We should be absorbed in thinking with this knowledge, transcendental knowledge, and who subdues his senses. This is very, very important. To control his senses, subdues his senses. Subdues, not control, subdue. To subdue it, you require some amount of control, but some amount of management is also there. You see, managing the senses. Quickly attains a supreme spiritual peace. Krishna is saying quickly attain. You see, not that he takes time for it. Achirena, the word uses achirena, means very soon. Adhigachati, he attains. Then this is a very important verse which we know this, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam, 529. Krishna says, the sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, the benefactor of and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. Just by understanding Krishna is the ultimate proprietor, the person is freed from all these material pangs and miseries. This envious nature of somebody else, think that I'm the proprietor. We get some benefit. We do some activity. We get some success in it. We become very proud. These are all actually this is very material miseries. Any kind of pride, spiritual, material, it brings miseries only. Because pride in the material world is very limited, doesn't exist. The gopis are the topmost devotees of Krishna. Okay, but they were accepted, and they accepted themselves as just ordinary cowherd girls in Vrindavan. They would say, we are just ordinary cowherd girls in Vrindavan. Who are we? We are nobody. You see, they tell Krishna, if you don't behave, I'll go and tell to the, I will go and tell the king of Mathura, Kamsa against you, complain against you, that you are disturbing ordinary citizens of Vrindavan in the forest. So understand this. They accepted the position of cowherd girls in a forest, in a small village in the forest called Vrindavan. Not even a city called Mathura, which is very opulent. They were not some big society girls and big ladies in Mathura. You see, they were in a small village, somewhere in the forest called Vrindavan. These gopis. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted them as the topmost devotees. Radharani also accepted herself just like that. Nothing else. So those who are really, really at the top level, if you are worshippers of Radharani, we just had Radhastami gone, then we should really understand this point. We accept gopis as the topmost, but they accept themselves as the lowermost, lowest of the lower. And then finally, in understanding this verse, it's in 828, where it says that a person, Krishna says, a person who accepts the path of devotional service, he is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas. Okay? So if anyone performs devotional service in this way, sincerely, like a sincere student, humble person, he is not bereft of all knowledge of the Vedas, performing austere sacrifices, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. At the end, he reaches the supreme abode, he says. You see? So devotional service does not have any conditions. Only if I do this, I'll become a devotee. Only if I do that, I'll become a devotee. There are no conditions in this. No conditions. I must understand this point. We bring artificial conditions in this situation. Any kind, what you require is knowledge. Knowledge comes from Shiksha. The mantra needed is chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. You don't require anything else. So a person who accepts the path of devotional service, Krishna says, is not bereft of results derived from studying the Vedas, performing austere sacrifices, giving charity, and or pursuing philosophical or fruitive activities. Because for all these things, you see, for all performing of the Vedas, you require some activities to be done to study the Vedas. Performing austere sacrifices. To perform austere sacrifices, you require again certain things to be done, like diksha and all those things. Giving charity, you require to be very opulent to give charity. Or pursuing philosophical or fruitive activities, you require to be materially opulent. So fruitive activities and philosophical things. For pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities, you require to be a little detached. Fruitive activities you require to be materially opulent, you see. But it can surpass everything bhakti. At the end, he reaches the supreme abode, which is Krishna, and back to Godhead, of which there is no doubt. This is what I understand from this verse which we're discussing today, which Krishna says in 10:41, where he says this, Yad yad vibhuti sattvam Srimad urjitam eva va tattad eva gachatvam tattad eva gachatvam mama tejo amsa sambhavam. Know that all beautiful, glorious, and majestic and mighty creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. Jai Srila Gurudev ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Chandra Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. I could finish it in time, 8:30. Hari Bol. Anyone wants to say anything? Any questions or any reflections? Please feel free. Or anyone want to share their realizations? Please feel free. Hare Krishna. Okay, Hare Krishna. So with this, then we conclude today's discussion. Krishna willing, we'll meet again next week, same place, same time. Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki. Jai. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jai.
Jai.
Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki. Jai.
Jai.
Srila Gurudev ki. Jai. Jagadguru,
Jai.
what synonyms, translation and purpose of Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai.
Jai.
Shri Nitai Gaur Chandra Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Hare.
Jai. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hari
Thank
Bol.
you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.